People's Complaint Desk. Topic for today, or for this time, this session is death and dying. I know it's a heck of a topic, but somebody has to talk about it because it's there, it's in your face. Eventually it's going to happen, you know, if it hasn't already happened to your friends, relatives, and all the rest of the stuff. All right, so let's talk about death and dying. And one of the most frequently asked questions on search engines just happens to be, what happens to us after we die? Or what happens to me after I die? What happens to you after you die? A lot of people have it on their mind. They're asking about it. Well, let's talk about it. My family has a little thing. It seems that whenever anybody passes away, they come back to visit, just to say one last see you later in some manner or form. My grandmother, for example, she died, and my aunt called the house. My wife answered the phone, called me to get on the phone. I was still in bed. It was early in the morning. I grabbed the phone, talked, and she was still listening a little bit. And we found out that Grandma passed away. My wife comes walking up the steps, gets there, and all of a sudden, a visible breeze comes through the room. A warm breeze. This was in November. A warm breeze comes through the room. This bedroom was up on the top of the house in the attic that was finished, and it had it was the entire length of the house, and it had a sitting room on one side and it had windows on each side, and the windows were closed. I had baseboard heat, so there wasn't anything to generate any heat or any wind or anything of the sorts, but all of a sudden a warm breeze moves through the room. We can see things flutter like newspapers or paper, and I feel it and my wife feels it, and we go, that's Grandma. That's what my family does at several occasions. You know, on the other occasion, my cousin Pat. I loved my cousin Pat, but he was kind of hard to take. Cousin Pat was bigoted. He was a police officer in a very hard section of town. And, you know, he has his justification and reasons, but there isn't a race that he will not insult. And you were either a cop or you were a criminal. So you either got treated like a fraternal order of brotherhood, or you did something wrong, you're just hiding it, you're a criminal. You're the other. You're the us or them. And, you know, we chatted about that every now and then. When Cousin Pat died, I'm getting a text from my son, who lives back there, and he says, Cousin Pat died, 2 lines. I read the second line the minute I finished. The second I finished that reading of the second line, and I just about go to my wife, Cousin Pat died. Boom! After 30 years, hanging on the ceiling, the chandelier in the dining room falls down, doesn't break the table, but leaves some pretty good divots. That was Cousin Pat coming to say goodbye. Other experiences? A father-in-law, Tom, passed away. I like Tom. He's a good man. He's a Roman Catholic, and he practices faith by being kind, considerate, compassionate, and generous. Tom passed away. Went to the funeral. The funeral was a mass. In the mass, there's a time where you offer peace to the person sitting next to you. I was sitting between his older sister and his widow. Comes time for peace. I extend my hand, turn to the left. I say, peace be with you, something similar to that. And his sister turns over, looks at me with a little smile and sees me and gives a start. I said, what's wrong, Ruby? And he said, God, I thought you were Tom sitting next to me. You felt just like him. Okay, I turned to the right, to his widow. Peace be with you. How did you know that? I didn't say peace be with you exactly. I said something. I don't remember what I said. But she said, how did you know? He was the only one that said that to me. Now, for myself at the time, I was out of it. This is a guy that I really grew to know and like, and I've been around him, you know, married to his daughter for a long time. I felt very close to him. And I don't know what was going through my mind, where I was, or how I was, what was going on when his sister mistakes me for her deceased brother and his widow, tells me that I said something to her that only he says. So the question then, what happened to Tom after Tom died? Well, I would imagine that Tom may have been around visiting everybody at his funeral in some manner or form. If you're looking for other things that go on after people die, there's a lot of stuff in the lines of circles, seances, mediums, and things of that sort in the spiritual or spiritualist or spirituality format, where they recognize that the spirit and the soul is a consciousness that never dies, even though the body goes through a phenomenon known as death. But for Cousin Nate, he was a good man. And when he went, I could not forever get the smell of bananas out of the house. I had no idea where it was coming from. He passed away in March. There were no bananas in the house. But my cousin and I used to go down to the seashore, and we'd try picking up girls, and we'd always have milkshakes, and he always had a banana milkshake. It was disgusting. I said, what do you want that for? I'd take chocolate syrup and vanilla ice cream milkshake. What are you doing with a banana milkshake and vanilla ice? That's disgusting. Ew. The smell of bananas in my house the whole day. So what happened to him after he died? I think he had gas. And he was saying, hey, I'll see ya, cuz. All right. We'll come back and talk about little things like this every now and then, because you know what? Somebody's got to talk about death and dying in some manner or form. So who's going to talk about it? I mean, if you got an old people's complaint desk, who else? All right. I'll see you now.